All right, guys, this is video number 2 today on August 15th. If you're watching this in the future and stuff, there's another video I shot right before this, um, talking about where I went to Kingsport stuff with a little bit of Kingsport, Tennessee, with a little bit of a story. I am not feeling well. I went to a wedding on Sunday. The fiance was a bridesmaid in it, and since then, 2 or 3 people have done a group message asking if anybody else had gotten sick. So something happened there, and I'm weak and I'm getting ready to go to work. I missed a day of work today or this week, and I'm shooting these before I go to work so I can get them uploaded. That's why I didn't do a show last past Sunday. But on the day that we went to Kingsport, before we got our hotel room, we sort of were going to stop and get some snacks, water, that sort of thing. I looked over and I saw Books a Million beside of the Target we were stopping at, and walked up to the Books a Million, and they had this incredible sale going on. From what I understand, it's been going on for a while. So all you comic book people that are online with me and stuff like that, kudos to you for keeping it quiet. I've heard rumors for the last 6 months that Books a Million is going to get out of the comic book business. It's a rumor. I don't know if it's real or not, but I do know that I've seen one Books a Million get rid of all their floppy issues for $1 a piece. I've seen tons of their uh, trades and stuff on sale, but they always have that. You know what I mean? On clearance. But this is the one that was amazing because these are already marked down, and then you were to take 50% off the lowest price. So all of these were anywhere from $1 to 250, with one book being $5, right? So check out your Books a Million. It is August 15th, 2019. Who knows? I have the cover off of this one, but I talked about Bill Willingham in the last video a little bit about his unique career. But this is a hardback copy of an original story for Fables, and it's sort of a prequel of Bigby Wolf. Bigby Wolf was sort of a breakout character in Fables. He is the seventh son of the North Wind, if you will. And he's basically, a werewolf is what we come down to with, super breath and things. But he ended up being a very popular character. And this is, I believe, the story of him trying to find. I started reading it. That's why it's um, out of the dust jacket. But this has so far been a pretty good read. I'm just a few pages into it, but basically, I think he's hunting for all the fables and stuff, right? It's a prequel and stuff, and he finds a town full of werewolves. And I'm finding that I have this thing about werewolf stories now because in the 80s with TSR, I was like this 13-year-old kid for about 5 years. I played Dungeons and Dragons with the same guys who were all older than me, right? Once I graduated school and these guys got jobs, got married, I stayed in contact or still saw one or two regularly and stuff, but I didn't continue with Dungeons and Dragons because part of the magic I found was it's all about still your friends who you're playing with, and I just didn't find that connection with one or two other groups that I play D&D with, right? And then in the early 90s, I was the guy that had the apartment that everybody hung out at. And one of my buddies brought in this White Wolf role playing games. And we ended up playing Werewolf the Apocalypse, which was just fantastic. That's what we were role playing. Then we moved on to Vampires and Vampires the Dark Ages. So when I read these werewolf stories, I'm sitting here thinking of, oh, he's a Glabro right now. This could be a Glasswalker. I start doing the different kind of werewolves and the different forms they have and the rules and stuff, right? So I got this one for the fiance. This is her second comic. This is a hardback. This was $1, and there's a volume 2, which we'll probably end up getting. But it's the graphic novelization, if you will, of the girl with the dragon tattoo. I think we all know what this is, and I think we all know the movies, the books, where it comes from. She flipped through it, definitely wanted it. This was the book that was $5, and which is still. Now, back a year, what was it? I mean, time's flying by. A year and a half ago, almost 2 years, Ollie's bought up millions of dollars of DC Comics trades and hardbacks. And I grabbed every archive edition that they had on sale. So I grab these now when they're on sale, right? These are fantastic. They're of course hardback, and they're great. My pride of those. They're down here somewhere, right in there. There's some of my archive editions, but this is the Commandy one I found last year. Okay, we all know the movie. I'll grab something by Dave Gibbons, which amazes me for who Dave Gibbons is and the amount of work that he's put out over his career is surprisingly, for as long as he's been around, is to me surprisingly there could be more. Is how I feel about it, right? So I kind of grab these, but this is part of the Miller world. We know so much of his stuff that's been adapted to comics, such as this one, The Kingsman, Kingsman, The Secret Service. But this is Mark Miller with Dave Gibbons. So yes, I grabbed this for a buck. I loved the movie. Second one didn't keep my attention. I can barely tell anything about it, but it's worth a rewatch and stuff, right? That was a buck. And this one, this was $1.50, but during the DC 52, the video is still up. I did a video where we got the flyer or whatever it was that you could, they'd give you for free at a comic book shop. And you just flip through it and it announced all 52 books, giving you a little idea of what they were about and stuff like that. And in my video, I was taking a knife and stabbing each book that I thought was going to be canceled. I Vampire, there was not one that I stabbed. If I remember, this is a James DeMonte's creation from way back in the early 80s there. I think it was House of Mystery or House of Secrets, there towards the end of the runs. But of course, they got in here and they did a whole new thing with it, a whole new setting, new concept. And I remember flipping through, I remember having the first 4 or 5 issues. And of course, I sold all the DC 52 stuff, almost all of it and stuff. But I was told you might want to slow down and reread these and stuff. So that's what I want to do. I love the art in them, but I felt like there's a lot of tracing, if you will. If you look at the art, you'll see what I'm saying. I could be wrong. I don't want to insult anybody. But I figured for $1.50, I got the first 6 issues. Time to reread it. That book actually didn't really seem to make anyone mad, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, so one of my buddies was gracious enough to send me a bunch of trades and single issues of Grant Morrison's Stormwatch and the Authority. And that book, The Authority, was sort of a justification at the time where I'd been reading comic books for so long that I could finally see the books that I read was influencing the future finally. And the big one to me was Squadron Supreme, where the heroes became proactive and sort of took over government and started taking away rights and things, thinking they were being morally doing the moral thing, doing the right thing, getting this country on there, right? So that ended up influencing books like Kingdom Come by Alex Ross, and that was Alex Ross's baby. For all you people online saying what happened to Wade, the guy who wrote Kingdom Come. No, that was Alex Ross's baby. But we also hit with Stormwatch and The Authority, and then after Grant Morrison did The Authority, Mark Miller came in and really became a name. Grant. He was attached to Grant Morrison on a lot of stuff like, oh my God, his Swamp Thing run. And why am I forgetting that Justice League character they did? Aztec, things like that. But anyway, we come in and, this is a trade of some Authority stories and stuff by Mark Miller and stuff for a buck. Frank Quitely on there. And in this book, I'm glad this ended up being last on here. This may not blow you away, but this miniseries, Phantom Zone, has a big memory in my collecting years. I was 9 years old when this came out. 9 years old was the time where I started looking around my room and I saw stacks of books I was collecting right there beside of my stepdad's collection and my uncle, whatever, I'm sure there were some books of his by this time. Their collections were mixed up in the 70s, and there was always arguments about whose stuff was whom's, all right. But Superman the Phantom Zone was one of the first miniseries to come out in 1982. And reading this book, it was a Steve Gerber and Gene Colan collection, and I'm a dude that was reading Superman Family and watching Super Friends, with Superman and stuff. All of a sudden, there's this dude coming in, and I recognized his art from some Daredevils and stuff, right? That weren't mine, but I read them and stuff. And this book just put a dent in my mind. It was strange, it was weird, it was new, and I loved it. I ended up rereading it and just studying the art and stuff in it. And basically, I've never been able to put into words why. So you have Steve Gerber coming over from Marvel because he got into a lawsuit over the rights of Howard the Duck and things. You got Gene Colan, who came over as part of the wave of creators who came from Marvel because of Jim Shooter becoming editor in chief. And Jim Shooter he wasn't going to let writers be their own editors. And Gene Colan has claimed, if I remember right, that Jim Shooter absolutely hated him, so he ended up coming over. Roy Thomas came over. Marv Wolfman, Perez. I think Perez may have just kind of went with Marv. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know George's story. But anyway, you had this wave of Marvel guys coming over to DC, and Gene Colan and Roy Thomas jumped on Wonder Woman, but you had Steve Gerber and Gene Colan on this. And you have this guy who was famous for his horror books doing, in my eyes, still a Silver Age character. They were playing it's sort of like Dark Knight Returns in a way. Frank Miller used all of these Batman villains in ways where he didn't really change the characters. They was just innovative. And that's what Steve Gerber did with this. He took the Phantom Zone and the villains in it and some Kryptonian characters and stuff, and he used them exactly like they were, but with his mind tripping take on them with this Gene Colan art that's heavy on blacks, that's reminiscent of his horror stuff. But it's not a horror story. There's monsters in it in the Phantom Zone and stuff. But it just had this atmosphere. It was unlike anything I had read at the time. So this I don't think this will blow anyone away. But what I like about the collection is years later you had the story finish in DC Comics Presents number 97, I think the last issue before John Byrne took over the Superman books, and they canceled DC Comics Presents and made Action Comics the team up book, if you will. So they have Rick Veitz's story in there with Steve Gerber finishing out the Phantom Zone story. So like I said, I have the issues. I think I have one or two of the original issues I read as a kid, but it's nice to have something just kind of pull off and look, because I've already tried to read the first issue, and it's just basically Steve Gerber introducing all the characters and giving you brief histories of all the villains in the Phantom Zone, what they did on Krypton that was so horrific. So yeah, it's a little bit of work to read some of that, but I remember by the time I got to issue 4 of the 4-issue miniseries, I was blown away. That was the one where I was just amazed, and I've already flipped through it, and my memory has really blown up some of those story moments in my head the way I remember them, because I'm sort of like, well, there's a scene where Green Lantern has had his power battery stolen from him, and you've got, I can't remember if it was Superman or Supergirl or somebody up in orbit on Earth, and they get his power ring back and they throw it to Earth, and Wonder Woman jumps up and she catches it. And I get in here and it's like 2 little panels. I'm like, oh, I remembered that moment so big, and I was like, whoa, that was a moment, throwing a power battery from space and Wonder Woman catching it for Green Lantern. All right, guys, that's it. I gotta get to work later.